This podcast is part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, the network for first responders and those who support them.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Hero Academy podcast. I created this podcast for you if you are a first responder, police officer, fireman, nurse, military personnel. This podcast is for you. Let's get your stories out. They need to be heard by everyone, especially the good ones. Let's share those stories and create some positivity out there in the world. Enjoy this episode. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Hero Academy podcast. In this episode, we have Evan, who is the paramedic coach on Instagram and also on YouTube. He has a very large social media following. He's been at it for a few years, and he is an excellent teacher. I highly recommend, if you are an EMS or in paramedics, that you go and check out his videos. He is very inspiring. I hope you enjoy this episode. First, I just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for everything that you do out there in the streets. Do you have any really funny or crazy EMS stories? I never ask people what's the worst thing they saw, because that's a horrible question.
Right.
So
right.
I ask, what is the funniest thing, or what's the craziest thing that you can remember?
So this story is the first one that comes to mind, because it kind of like shows you like the full circle of the service. And I know it's your background too, so I know you probably have a similar story or understand this. So while I was making this transition, this is actually a perfect question to come in here. While I was making this transition, going from EMT is the first level in the ambulance, the paramedic is the higher level of care. So as I'm starting to make this transition, right? I was working at a local pharmacy, right? So in the very, very beginning, when I was just starting like paramedic school, I was working in a pharmacy. I was doing some pharmacy tech stuff, delivering medications, just learning about meds, stuff like that, right? So I had a client there who I would deliver their meds to, and we became friends. You deliver like delivering a package or something. You get to know the person, stuff like that, right? Or maybe you used to, maybe not nowadays, I guess. But anyway, we kind of hit it off, and we just became friends and started talking, right? So he was very memorable. I remembered him, from that job. Long story. Now we go, let's just say, I don't remember how many years, but we'll just say it had to be at least 3 to 4 years later, at least, because it was kind of in the middle of working on the ambulance. Now I'm a fully licensed paramedic. I've been a medic for a few years, and we get a call that 2 EMTs, happen to be 2 brand new EMTs, have a really, really difficult case. It's a diabetic coming from a HIV clinic.
Mm.
Okay? So we know there's a lot of factors. We have an already sick patient. They're saying the blood glucose is low. It's a pretty bad case, right? So they call us to intercept before the hospital because it's that bad. We intercept. I take care of the patient. Unbeknownst to me, it's that same man that I met in the beginning of my career delivering medications. Now, years later, I'm the one bringing him back with the glucose back to consciousness as a paramedic. And by the way, this is not like this is in the same town. This is a town that's an hour away from the pharmacy is an hour away. So this doesn't even make any sense.
Wow.
It's not like, we're in some small town. No, these are like 2 different cities that are completely not even near each other, like an hour plus away. So that was a moment where I realized like how much I learned and like how far I came in such a short amount of time. So yeah, that I've told that story in other interviews, and that is the story that sticks to me. Like I'll never forget that.
What made you want to go from an EMT to a paramedic? Like what drove you and gave you that drive? Like that's where I want to be. Was it the money at that age, or was it just the higher ranking? What was it?
Yeah. So a lot of people have a lot of different answers for this, but this is my mindset, right? Just the way my personality is, I do like to be in a leadership role. It's truth. It's absolutely the truth. So that was definitely one of the biggest motivations. Seeing I'll give you an example. When you're an EMT and you're working under the paramedic, it's maybe you see certain things that you wish could have got done a different way that didn't. And you have this burning desire to do it, but you don't have the knowledge. So that's why you go to paramedic, right?
Right.
And not everyone has that, but for me, I was like, look, I really, I was all in on this. So not even that. Like I said earlier, like I knew once I started getting into this, that I was all in on it. And I was like, I was going past go, like I was going to paramedic school. So like my goal at 19 was, okay, I'm going to get my EMT. I'm going to get some experience, and then I'm going to apply to paramedic school. And I actually did it pretty fast. So to give you an idea, like, most people will work as an EMT for a few years and get some experience and go to paramedic. I had only 9 months of volunteer EMT experience. And by the way, you heard my story. Like I'm 20 years old, as well. So I'm young too. And then I'm saying, you know what, I'm just going to go all in with this. And now I'm in class with people that have been doing this for, some people that are twice my age, some people that have, 10, 20 experience, some people that are advanced EMTs that are a higher level. But the thing is, this is the whole cornerstone of what I talk about and why I was successful in paramedic school with not a lot of experience is you got to prepare yourself before you go in. And nobody talks about this in EMS. Everyone's just like, oh, just come and show up. We'll show you the ropes. But when I was in paramedic school, a few months before I started, because I knew I didn't have a lot of experience, what I did was I just started scouring the internet, trying to learn EKGs. I was grilling the pharmacist where I was working at about medications, trying to learn as much as I can. So that prep work that I did, this is back in 2012. It was August 2012 I started paramedic school. That helped me bridge the gap where they had a lot of experience, but I put in the prep work. I had some that written knowledge. And then I actually got an EMT job the first semester, like a paid EMT job, the first semester of paramedic school. And it all bridged together. And this is what I try to tell my students. If that's the path you want to take, you have to prepare before you go in, and no one talks about it. And then that's a big part of my brand as well.
I love your brand, man. I love that you coach new students and you found a way to create a side hustle. IG and YouTube, you pretty much created them at the same time and they kind of grew, but which one kind of blew up faster than the other?
So I would say primarily, I would say probably the YouTube the YouTube kind of is the more primary social media, I would say. And that's kind of the one that I kind of focus on more, mainly because the videos are more, we call them, long form videos. They just can give more information where, someone obviously could find me on Instagram. I try to do like daily quick tip posts. You've probably seen those, like stuff like that. I'll just grab my phone and say, okay, I'm going to talk about sympathetic versus parasympathetic. Okay, here we go. What's trying to answer some of those burning topics within a minute. But as you know, if you're trying to teach like the whiteboard back here, I'm trying to teach like a full lesson, you're going to need YouTube for that. So that's where I go for the long form stuff.
So this is a little bit off topic, but you keep yourself pretty thin.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bust the chops of some of my EMS brothers and sisters out there. Why are so many of them letting themselves go? Why are so many of them, they look like they could be on the stretcher next, but I know they have good hearts. I know especially the volunteers, they're not getting paid. So I know where their hearts are, but why are so many of them, in your experience? Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
So, and this is a pretty interesting thing. So I feel like in any first responder role, it's kind of weird that there's no meeting in the middle. Like maybe you have somebody who's like, you have like someone who's like, super into like fitness, and then people that are just totally out of it. Where if everyone just met in the middle, it'd be great, but it's kind of hard to do that, right? You kind of, if you're going to be into fitness and you're going to be into something, you kind of got to be all in on it. You can't just show up one day or show up the next. I mean, you understand,
right?
Too. So I really wish I could answer this. I mean, here's the thing. It's the only thing I can tell you is, and those people that may see this, that, were working with me when I first became an EMT or a paramedic know this. I just always have I had a positive spirit in me. Like, even if I was being like, let's say, overworked on the ambulance, or I had to do extra hours, or whatever it may be, it's like, you have to understand, like, this is what you signed up for. This is what you went to school for, right? This is what you've done. So it's like that positivity kind of usually it goes off into the rest of your life. The other thing is that I would say is the way that, and this is from the beginning. And again, if someone's watching, and 21-year-old Evan, you'll know this. It's really the way that you structure your schedule. And I feel that a lot of people in EMS, maybe it's an outside thing or a family thing that they're having a problem with, right? Maybe that's why their schedule is a certain way. But there are different ways to get the job done with having a schedule that works for you, but also works, obviously, if you're employed somewhere. You just got to find the right place for you. So like we were talking about before we even started this, is you want to find, like, you are the prize. So I tell my students, you're the prize. You're the EMT, you're the advanced EMT, you're the paramedic. You have to go find the best place in the marketplace that's going to be best for you. And if you think about that in a different way, you're almost like marketing yourself, right?
Yeah,
so like
definitely.
that. So for me, it's like, if you're going to be in this high level of responsibility, it's just, I've had that mindset from day one, Dave. Just like, if you're going to be in this high level of responsibility where the public trusts you, where you're seeing things in like 1% of the population will see, we're talking about, police, fire, EMS, military, whatever, then you have an obligation to be in the best shape of your life. Like, you shouldn't be smoking cigarettes, man. Come on, But again, this is my recommendation. I can't just think about this. Okay, I'm the paramedic coach, right? Imagine I was talking about, one of the risk factors is smoking, and then I'm out smoking cigarettes. It just doesn't, to me, it never made sense.
It's not congruent.
Right.
It's not congruent.
Right. So if you're going to call yourself the paramedic coach, you better back it up, right? So that's, I'll tell you, it's a motivating thing, putting yourself out there online, because it's like it's like this morning before this podcast, we'll talk about it later. Like, I did my run, I had to do my core, has to get done. It needs to get done. I need to stay in certain shape. So that's my message to those. And I have a video on my YouTube. I talk about fitness. Like I mentioned the lifting earlier. If strength's an issue, I did a program on there that's universally known started from an old bodybuilder, Ridge Park. I do more running now than real lifting. But there was a time where I needed to get stronger. I did that. If it's cardio is an issue, I mentioned it earlier, and you're going to ask me probably later, but I am a huge runner, big advocate for running. So not just for your mindset, but obviously it keeps you fit too. So it works for me.
So you hit on two pieces of advice that I would give you cops. It's to get yourself to stay in shape, never let yourself get out of shape, and get yourself into some kind of training regimen. And for cops in particular, I always recommend jujitsu, because at some point you might need to know how to wrestle with someone,
Oh, I bet.
Hopefully not, but you might have to go hands-on.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for young people, young EMTs or young paramedics that are coming in today into this current class, current group? Do you have any advice for them?
Sure. So first thing right off the bat is this. You have and we'll talk about this, I call it like a window of time. All right. Let's say your class, and a lot of people June, a lot of EMT classes are summer classes, especially for a lot of like college students out there. They want to get their EMT class in for whatever they're doing. So let's just say, for example, you have, let's just say August 1st. That's another, beginning of August, new semester. That's about popular time. Let's just say your program started August 1st. Right now, it's the middle of June. Okay. Right. So you have a month and a half before you actually start your class. So what should you be doing right now? Right. Well, you have basically at 8 weeks to about 2 months. So you have, let's just say 6 to 8 weeks time to get prepared for the class. the most important thing you should be doing is studying content before you go in. Imagine this. Imagine you went into class, and when you start with EMT school, you don't have any medical prerequisites. This is where people get in trouble. Like when I had my class of 80 people, only about 20 people graduated. When I was in paramedic school, we started with 32 people. Day one, we're down to 30 people. And then by end of first semester, it's only a few months, we're down to, it was 14 people. It's 14 people. We were down.
Half. Wow.
I'm my biggest thing is trying to get this out there, like prepare. So like I have a course that takes you through EMT school prep. Oh, we're talking about let's talk about EMTs here, but it goes through everyone, EMT, advanced EMT paramedic. Let's say it was EMT school, would be to go through the EMT prep. Anatomy and physiology is in there, right? The core concepts of being an EMT that people, every single class, struggle with. What am I talking about? Like neurology, cardiology, respiratory, anatomy and physiology. I mean, the thing is, it's not that it's so complex, like let's just say math, right? It's so many numbers, complex, right? It's that you're being thrown this information in a short amount of time. The school is only 3 months long, and now they have accelerated programs, and then they have online programs. And you don't know how, and with all due respect, you don't know what kind of instructor you're going to have, because your instructor is super important. They're your, guiding, light, if you will, to getting through. So this is why I started doing all this. I wanted to fill in all these gaps to make sure that nobody out there was, left behind. No matter what the circumstance, if you were in a 4-week course, an 8-week course, if you were in a shortened paramedic course, if you had an issue with pharmacology or cardiology, I could fill that gap up for you, and you'd get through school and get through your national boards. And that was my goal with creating all this with a paramedic coach.
When people ask you, what do you do? And you want to tell your story,
sure.
How do you do it in a way without saying, I do all of these things? Because you're pretty awesome. So how do you do it without sounding pompous,
No, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I would say keep it simple. Like I started from the same exact spot. I tell my students, I started from the same exact spot that you're in. I've just gone through it, and I have a science and a method of doing it. You just got to follow the steps. There's nothing. Hundreds and thousands of people have gone through EMT and paramedic school, obviously, right? Hundreds of thousands. Right now, there's hundreds of thousands of registered EMTs and paramedics in the United States. There's no reason why you can't do it. It's what I talk about is you just need the right information, right? So what I'm doing is I am your instructor, and I'm going to give you that information. It's going to fill in those gaps for you to make sure that you pass. It's simple as that. That's what I do.
I love it. It. What's something that only a small group of friends know about you? Like a small circle? Like, you have any weird hobbies?
Yeah, I wouldn't say weird, but man, I mentioned it earlier. I'm super obsessed with running. I run in races. People in my inner circle. I have a group coaching. If you're a member of my course, the next level, my highest level, is my group coaching. Like today at 5, we're doing a group coaching call. I call it my inner circle. I think that they'll only if they know about it, but not everyone knows about it. But I'm a huge runner, man. Like we've talked earlier, like I'll drive 2.5 hours to go race in 5Ks, stuff like that. I have a running coach. I'm all in on it. So it's one of my it's one of my biggest hobbies, man.
What's the furthest you've ever ran?
Furthest I've ever ran has been 8 miles. 8 miles is my long. 8 miles is my long run. So
okay, I was gonna say the longest I've ever run, and that was back in the academy, was 6 miles, and that was my long run. And then I cut it down to 3, and now the longest I'll run is 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles. If it was with a group of friends, I could pull off a 5K with a group of friends cold, but I have 2 torn meniscus from jujitsu. So
that
So sometimes it's painful, it's painful to run.
that
I know they have gel shots, and I'm gonna get those eventually.
and by the way, I completely understand. Like my coach, major, my coach was like 1 second away from being in the Olympics. Like
Wow.
he was training. Shout out to Coach Mike. He was training with Olympians. Like he was like their pacer during their workouts. And that happened to him too. Like he had that meniscus, same thing, and that's so it's a pretty common injury to have happen. Like
you just mentioned something really key, that you have a coach. So I just want all of my listeners to hear that. Never train with a coach who doesn't have a coach. If your coach is not getting better, then you probably should seek out another coach. But I think that the reason why I wanted to interview you is because I believe that everything that you're doing around teaching is an inspiration, and I really and truly respect your hustle. Like when I see Kevin Hart and I see The Rock talking about their upcoming roles and what they have in the works, I'm like, man, I really respect that hustle, and I want to emulate that a little bit. So anytime I see somebody out there who's like really, they're doing a lot of big things, I want to connect with them. So I'm so grateful to have you on and just talk with you.
Honored.
Where does the coaching come from? Like, when did you decide to start incorporating a coaching program?
This is great. So let's go. I guess we can go back a little bit. So I was the kind of paramedic where if, let's say, there was a EMT student and they would wear like red shirts and I saw them walking into the base, I was like, come on, let me get that student, come on. Like literally, like
Yeah.
I always loved teaching. And where the first time I started to teach, where I said, okay, I'm actually I had this EMS stuff down. As far as teaching, remember I talked to you earlier about how I prepared for paramedics. So before I went in, I had some knowledge, stuff like that, right? Well, I worked at the pharmacy too, so I had like that medication knowledge that not a lot of people get either, right? So that was cool. So like what I would do was I kept finding myself when we would do like these study sessions, we'd like rent out a room in the library, have the whiteboard, right? And we'd go and do stuff. I kept running the study sessions and like teaching my friends. And what I found was when you teach other people, it sticks in your brain even better.
Yes, it does.
Right?
Yes, it does.
So I was like, this is like a win-win. I'm helping my friends who, were struggling. And I'm like, and I'm just learning this content. Now I have it down even more because I keep teaching them. And I'm like, that was the first time I said, wow, I think this might be my lane. This might be my lane. I think I got this down. Even in paramedics, so that's where I said, wow, I enjoy this. Like this, really enjoy the medicine. I enjoy teaching this stuff. And then, I remember my first few, you start off, you don't get new medics at first. You start off with like new EMT students, then you'll get more and more. Having the first few new like EMT students, like it's just in the ambulance, and I've just given them advice and helping them out because then yeah, man, I just love it, man. I just love it, man. I love teaching. One of the biggest things why I started this too was there's a lot of instructors. There's a lot of teachers out there, but anyone can go up in front of a PowerPoint and read off PowerPoint.
Yep.
My whole thing is using, mnemonics, using different, ways to connect things together and relationships in the teaching to make it simple. Because the thing that people miss is, like I said earlier, remembering where you came from. So when I was 19, had no direction, okay, I'm in EMT class, that is possibly the person that you're speaking to, because I was there. And you have to bring them up level by level until one day they're at or above, of course, where you are, right? That's how you do it in teaching. So that's why I try to do it with my teaching method and students. try to break it down as simple as possible so they understand it, not just for the exam, but they understand it for life. Because,
That's really cool.
I mean, back in 2012, in paramedic school, I was taught this stuff for the first time. How do I have all these doses, adult pediatric doses, still in my head to this day? You got to have mnemonic shortcuts for that, and that's how you do it. So that's what I recommend.
If you could create a Netflix show, your own Netflix special, what would you make?
That's a good one. Man, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind would be So kind of what I guess I'm doing now. I guess I'm putting it onto Netflix. I guess. Throw our YouTube videos up on there. But
how would you make it? How would you make it more entertaining, more funny? Like,
yeah.
How would you? Because obviously you're going to be teaching, but how would you make it like?
Actually,
would it be a documentary or would it be more of a series?
I think I got it. I think this could be interesting. Having a crew travel with me as I go across all 50 states to different EMS programs, teaching inside their classroom or something like that, or seeing how maybe going how they do EMS over here versus how they do EMS over here and seeing the difference, or or maybe bringing people together and kind of being like the host of that. I think that'd be pretty entertaining, something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And that'd be fun. That'd be fun. That'd be really fun.
If you could go back in time and talk to that kid that was working in the pharmacy, what would you tell him?
Man, so now I'm going to be 29 here in a few months. I mean, so obviously I'm still, young. Obviously people are watching it. Oh, this guy's still young. What are you talking about? But dude, I know you're laughing, right? But you do learn a lot in, going through your 20s. You learn a lot. The most important thing I've learned, not only in business, EMS wise, everything, is one, discipline, and two, thinking long term and not short term. I cannot tell you all the success that I'm doing everything now. If I thought more long term, like I think now, I think everything I'm doing would be even bigger. Number one. Number two would be, man, whatever your goal is, discipline is everything. Like, discipline gets you whatever you're looking for, right? So you got to figure out a plan. Like, I have certain things that I need to do every day. Like I just mentioned them earlier, like doing my core exercises, doing my run, doing my recovery. I might have videos to shoot, right? Just give me examples, right? So
what's your business? Because I call it business bricks. Like, I have 3 bricks that I need to place inside the business every day. I gotta place those bricks. So what kind of business things do you have that you're disciplined to do every day?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the first is to my members and my students, right? So one of the first things obviously is that, like, are there any questions? Like, now here's one thing people probably don't know. This is why I want to come on. I know the way you do your questions, this is good stuff. We get deep, right? A lot of influencers out there, they don't respond back to their community, right? Like, you have no idea. Dave, seriously have no idea. The amount of messages that I get, like, between Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. I pride myself on literally doing my absolute best to get back to every single DM, every single message, every single, comment that I do. So obviously with YouTube, it's a lot. I'd be there all day doing that. It's impossible. But if somebody, DMs me, or Facebook DMs me, or Instagram, I try to get back to them, give them information, give them, hope. Oh, I'm a fan. I try to get back to as much as I can. Again, this is way you sign up.
Do you use? I was gonna say, do you use voice to send? Because that's a quick way rather than texting.
Yeah, and voice is better anyway, because you can portray the message better anyway.
Yes.
But that's one of the things, and then obviously, like, my students, and obviously, of course, shooting the videos is huge, obviously. So I am the paramedic coach, so shooting videos, like, I have my my set back here, my lights are up for this podcast. This is a commitment. So yeah, just depending on the day, like I said, later on, I have my group coaching call for my inner circle at 5 o'clock. So yeah, man, it's pretty much, I pretty much get up every day and I think, how can I make the paramedic coach better? And how can I make this better for my students, my members? How can I just continually improve? Like I saw like Joe Rogan talking about on a podcast, like I'm a grinder. Like I want to just like that to me. I'm the same way. Like I'm constantly getting like sharpening the axe, trying to get better and better and better, so I can be there more for my students and my members. Like that's my whole purpose, and that's what I think about literally every single day. 100%.
That's really cool.
100%.
That's awesome. I follow a lot of Joe Rogan's advice too. I listen to his podcast. Part of the reason why I started my podcast was because he got that $100 million Spotify deal, and I was like, "Oh my god, if I could get 1% of that."
No, hey man, it's we call it a piece of the pie. We call it, right? Yeah,
Man. If I could just get a little piece of that pie.
Awesome, man.
You have any good story? You have any good stories dealing with firemen or nurses or cops, like in the field?
I mean, there's definitely a certain. I mean, obviously, obviously, cops, firemen, nurses, and EMS. You kind of, you definitely see them all.
Yeah, definitely.
Every day. I wouldn't say there's a particular thing, but there is one thing I would like to say about that. We say, hey, any good experiences, like stuff like that. I just, maybe I'm not sure, who's going to see this, but I guess I would want people to know like how hard it is to actually like become. If we mentioned a fireman, like that would be probably the one I worked along the most because they're on the same calls. How hard it is to get through the schooling for all that stuff, doing the fire 1, the fire 2, all that stuff. Like, myself, I'm just like EMS, the paramedic, but like how hard like they have to work to get to achieve that status. All the studying, all the nurses got to do, all stuff like that. All the training you have to do in like law enforcement. All the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see when someone shows up. Like that's one of the things that I would say. You mentioned an experience, like that's an experience. Like seeing somebody like we talked about earlier, like going from like brand new recruit to like, no, now they're like like the like one of the like the management or whatever, or they're like a senior official and they like started when they were like young. So I'd say like if you think of an experience, like that's kind of what I think about, to be honest with you. The first thing that comes to my mind.
You have any projects coming up? You working on anything like what's the next stage of your business? What's next?
No, yeah. So for me, again, it's my video study course is over 400 videos of content. Plus, you get access to me inside our community group to ask questions. And I give everybody lifetime access to that. Now, I'm always improving that product. So like last month, I just added an entire anatomy and physiology section to the course. Over 120 videos of content, worksheets, videos, breaking down every single part of the human body into the course, right? So that's
awesome.
Yeah, so that was new. We're doing a massive giveaway right now. I'm giving away. So this is one of the big things we didn't touch on, Act 2. Again, remembering where you started, right? So as one of my biggest things, like, so I'm surprised not on my wall because I talk about it all the time. Remembering where I was when I started EMT school, remembering that 19-year-old Evan, is I always try to do giveaways to give back. I've given away a lot of Littman scopes. I've even given away grants. So one thing that people don't talk about is, what about EMS scholarships? There's not that many. I can't even name one. Okay, I can't even name one. So I said, you know what? Why don't I just start doing it myself? So I started running different prizes, stuff like that, different giveaways. So we're giving away. It's over there. I'm giving away a MacBook Pro to the first place winner, and then 2 Littman stethoscopes and radio straps, which are pretty popular as well as second.
I saw that.
Third place prizes. Yep.
I saw it on your story. I was just going to say, it's really cool. One thing about the scholarships, I'm sure you could probably get some big name company to sponsor a couple of those, because you're doing really good work. You're not just a hero to society, you're also a hero to those brand new EMTs and paramedics. And I just wanted to thank you for that. Um, very, very quickly, we're just going to wrap up, and I'm going to ask you my last final 5 questions. You can keep the answer short on this because I respect your time and I appreciate you being on here. What does being a hero mean to you? Because like I said, society does call you a hero and everybody recognizes paramedics and EMTs as our heroes. What does that mean to you?
Pretty much the most straightforward way I can say it is this. And this is, again, something I always think about. Like I talked about earlier is being a hero means that you back up what you say. Like, doing the stuff behind the scenes that most people won't do, right? So like, to me, that's what a hero is, right? It's not only doing something heroic, it's putting in those hours, it's putting in that time, it's a discipline, it's backing up what you say. And again, that's like that literally, I mean, that's one of the biggest motivators for me every day is like knowing that I am out there so much is okay. Like I got to back this up. Right. And that's one of the biggest things, and I appreciate the kind words, man. I really do. I appreciate that a lot, by the way. Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
When you're feeling kind of stressed out because you got, a lot on your plate, or you might be feeling a little low, how do you save yourself? I already know the answer. You go for a long run, right?
Oh, no. Well, no, well, the thing is, well, truth be told, when you're so serious about running, sometimes the running itself can get you stressed out sometimes, because you run, because it's such an important part of it's a very important part of my life. So sometimes it can, like for example, like today I had squeezing a 3-mile run and I hop in the rehab boots after and then hop on the podcast, right? So truth be told, right? So yeah, man. But serious, this is actually pretty serious, and I do want to address this. So one thing a lot of people don't talk about is, people mention, oh, what's the worst thing you've ever seen in EMS or something like that, or PTSD or something like that. The first thing I tell people, I have a whole video on this. You can check it out on my YouTube. And if you are struggling with this, I really implore you to check it out. I'm also a member of I'm an admin of a Facebook group, Emergency Medical Technicians of America. And one of our fellow admins on there actually specializes in helping people out with this, right? So we've all been there, and I've been there too. We've all been there. The first thing I would say is take a reset. So like whatever you're doing, sometimes you just need to put the pause button on it, literally, right? And this is even what I tell my students: whatever you're doing, take the pause button on it and say, okay, what's the next best step that I can take to do something positive? And just start with a baby step, a little step, right? And by the way, no one's perfect. No one out there is perfect. Maybe you're watching me right now and, oh, this is the paramedic coach and all this stuff. Dude, I'm not perfect. I have bad days too, but obviously that's not shown. Everybody has bad days, so the biggest thing that's what I would say is do the reset and then say, what can I do right now to take just one little positive step? Right? The truth be told is if you're in a negative cycle, that one little positive step can just snap you out of it and go, oh, wow, I'm out of it now. I'm out of it. Yeah, that was a way too long answer there, but I wanted to deliver that to you.
That's okay. Yeah. What's your best power? Your best ability, your strength?
First thing that comes to mind would be teaching and speaking. Would be the
teaching
first.
Teaching and speaking.
Yeah.
And the last one, if you had a comic superpower, what would that be and why? Okay,
I'll be 100% honest here. First thing that comes to mind would be probably foreseeing the future.
All right.
That I could make the right moves.
So I had someone else answer. He's a teacher, and he said he said foreseeing the future is the only true selfless. Well, some people would use it for themselves, but he's like it's the only true superpower. Like because you can really, you know, make a change for the most amount of people. I'm like, yeah, but they would probably lock you up and study your brain.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would want to capture you to use your ability for themselves, you know.
Yeah.
Like you'd be a hunted man all the time, you know, because you can see what's about to come.
Truth. I mean, you say it. What's the first thing that comes to mind? I'm like, dude, that literally is the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, yeah, 100%. I feel like a lot of people think about the future a lot. So you're like, if I can foresee it, it'd be pretty cool, right? So.
Even if it was just little flashes that you kind of had to decipher and figure out the message, that would be better. That would be better than nothing.
Yeah, I would. I mean, yeah, I would say so. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, at least. So yeah.
Evan, it's been a really fun interview, and I want to thank you again, the paramedic coach. If people want to find you online, all they have to do is look up the paramedic coach on YouTube or Instagram, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Best way to find me: YouTube, the paramedic coach; Instagram, the paramedic coach. If you have any questions, do not at all hesitate to send me a DM on Instagram. You can certainly do that. My website for my video study course is prepareforems.com. It's also the first link under every single one of my YouTube videos. Link on my Instagram. You can find it. That's a video course where I give lifetime access to my best content. EMT, advanced EMT, and paramedic. You can find it all there. And yeah, I look forward to helping your audience out in any way that I can.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much for everything that you do.
Thank you, dude. Thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Yeah.
You too.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
You too, brother. Peace out.